So this is going to be fun. This is going to be for developers only.
Yeah.
And who are you guys?
I'm Phil Windley. I'm the CTO of Kynetx.
Yeah.
Steve Folling, and I'm the CEO.
Excellent. And my friend Jesse Stay, who's a developer, has been praising you guys for 2 weeks since he came back from your conference.
Yeah, we had Jesse out at the developer conference we held a couple weeks ago, and he I think saw the light, at least understood what we're trying to do, and has been
I'm pretty excited about it.
Yeah. So the stuff on your webpage is a little bit hard. Even Jesse can't really explain what you guys do. He can explain why he's excited and thinks that you have a revolutionary platform, but he can't really explain to normal people what it means. And so I'm hoping to get that out of you.
The elevator pitch for Kynetx is tough.
Yeah.
All right, try it.
I'll try it.
Okay, you try it?
I'll try it. So
it's always weird when the CTO gives you the elevator pitch instead of the CEO.
When you go online, you're trying to get something done.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're just goofing around, but most of the time you're trying to get something done. And our conjecture is that getting something done almost always requires going to more than one website. And because of that, the client becomes very important.
Yeah.
The only place that sees all the websites you go to and understands the context that you're in, what you're doing, is the client. The problem is the web has kind of been focused on servers for a number of reasons. One, the metaphor of location kind of pushes us to servers. But also it's a natural place for developers to migrate. There were good developer tools. It was all together. The client, on the other hand, has not been that way.
Yeah.
There are fractured development environments. Just writing an IE extension will convince you that you probably don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Firefox, Safari, Chrome, all of those things. And
they all have their own the things you have to develop. You can't build a Firefox extension and have it work in Safari.
That's right. It's completely fractured. And so in order to do more on the client, we believe that you need a better tool, better system in order to make that happen. And so what we've built is a developer platform that includes components which are cloud-based and also components which build the client-side pieces, so that as a developer you can create the client-side experience that you want, but it's, as Java famously said, write once, run anywhere.
Now, are these components on the client, are they JavaScript so that they run in browser?
We do run JavaScript. What we do essentially is this. You have a client-side component, it's a browser extension, but it's really a universal browser extension in the sense that it's not doing anything specific to the application a developer wants to do. When a user goes to a web page, it makes a call out to our service, and it fires a rule set. So we think of this as a rule language.
Okay.
And that rule set gets turned into JavaScript. The JavaScript is returned to the browser, where of course when it runs it can affect the DOM. And we take into account all of the browser differences and those sorts of things to make sure that that happens as seamlessly as possible.
So if I have a website, if I'm Mark Zuckerberg at Facebook, what do I need to do to bring Facebook into this new world?
Well, that's interesting because we're not necessarily targeting the places with sites already like Facebook. Okay. Although you can. It's possible to just use our system on a single website, and we have people that do that. I do that on my blog. Okay. When you go to my blog and look at the CTO breakfast page, for example, it has dates there that we're pulling out of Google Calendar, and that's the Kynetx system that's actually doing that.
Okay.
But what the people we're really hoping will pick this up and use it are developers who don't necessarily have a website but are trying to create a client-side experience that goes across multiple websites.
Okay.
A simple example is, and
like Seismic is doing a Silverlight version of their Twitter and Facebook client. Is it for that?
Yeah, it's similar to that. That's the kind of thing that we see happening. In fact, we don't believe that we're alone in wanting to build client-side applications that make a difference to users. You look at Gist or Glue, or there's a number of people who are building add-ons, extensions essentially, that do something on the browser in order to create a unique client-side experience.
Yeah.
And we believe that that's important, and so what we've developed is a tool set that allows people to build those, we think, more easily.
There's apps like Zobni which hook into Outlook, which are not necessarily browser-based, but they do use the internet.
Yeah.
Could you build an app like that as well?
We could. We're not there yet. We think of those as domains, and so we think of the web as a domain and mail as a domain. And that's on our roadmap, is to build extensions which work with Outlook or Thunderbird, or a telephony system. You could build an extension that worked with Asterisk, for example, so that a single rule set could manage an experience that goes across your mail browser, your telephone client, your web browser, all of those things.
Now, let's say I run a retail store and I'm building a website for next Christmas, right? Christmas is already done pretty much. What would this let me build for the normal person? Explain it in normal person language, you know, because we'll get dense and get geeky for the developers.
Yeah, sure.
What would a normal mom or dad or somebody who's kind of who's used to
do some talking?
Yeah, well, if you think, Robert, about the new media space, as a mom and pop business owner, you have an opportunity to either rent eyeballs, right? Pick up an ad in the telephone book, or rent a billboard, or buy Google AdWords. Or you can build a platform, right? You can create a community.
Yeah.
Obviously, creating a community is more expensive than renting eyeballs. However, that community becomes a part of your intellectual property of your organization.
Right.
And the conversion rates, I mean, really the conversion, if you think about what the participation of that community means to the value of that small business, happens when they enter that community.
And if I could interrupt, just to bring that down to specifics, when somebody starts a Twitter account, when they start a blog, when they create a Facebook fan page, they're essentially doing that, right? They're trying to create a platform, right? That's a fancy word for a Twitter account, but they're trying to create a platform where they can build a community of people who are interested in what they're doing.
Yeah.
So the Kynetx platform really gives 3 advantages that we believe allows you, really facilitates the most powerful platform to build this community on. One is it's cross-site, as Phil said. So it works on any website. So if you're a mom and pop business and your community lives on a collection of 3 or 4 websites, you can provide a unique experience for that community on those websites.
So if my end user goes to NetVibes and then goes to Facebook and then Twitter and then maybe Google News, what do you do to make that different than it is today?
Well, so let me talk through an example that was developed by one of our value-added resellers, and I'll show you that example in a demo with AAA. So one of the things that AAA understood is that there was a direct relationship between the subscription renewal rate and whether or not anyone has used a discount associated with their AAA membership.
Okay.
So they decided, Azigo and AAA partnered together to develop a Kynetx application that augmented the user experience where AAA members would browse.
Yep.
So if you think about where the AAA discount opportunities exist, no one knows, right? I mean, it's in a book. Who knows?
Like 1,600 of them.
Yeah.
A lot.
So with this Kynetx application, you can actually search now for any search term on Google or Bing or my Yahoo, and you can find out where those discount opportunities exist.
Interesting. So if you're going on vacation and you're looking for a hotel,
that's right.
Now, what does it do in Bing?
Yeah, do you want to
Let me show you.
Sure.
Well,
the problem is he's going to have to shoot the screen. So just explain it to me, and then we'll overlay.
And then we'll do that, and you'll cut it in.
Yeah.
Yeah, unless you guys have like movies already or marketing material that.
We'll do the demo separately.
Let's do the demo separately and cut it in.
Yeah. So the idea is, as Phil pointed out, your purpose is to rent a car.
Yeah.
If you type, for instance, rent a car into Google with this Kynetx application turned on, you will see that Hertz has a discount opportunity. Now,
and it just shows up in the results.
It just shows up right next to the search term.
AAA logo right next to the search term in Google, or Yahoo, or Bing.
Interesting. And the user didn't need to load anything.
No.
They just
the user does have to install. In AAA's card, they install a card, right? It's actually an information card from a technology standpoint, but from AAA's standpoint, they just think of it as their AAA card on their computer.
Got it.
Right? But it's that installation on the client side which actually allows us to make that augmentation. That's the key part of how that works. It's interesting because most people do go straight to planning a vacation when they think of AAA, right? Hotels and cars are kind of obvious. What isn't obvious is you get a 6% discount at Dell if you're a AAA member.
Yeah.
You type shoes into Google, And the AAA discount opportunity is at shoes.com. It's
Yeah.
completely online. It's not even an offline experience. And so there are a lot of places where people get AAA discounts, or would,
Yeah.
if they knew that they got those discounts.
Got it. So this is pretty interesting. So it's something that gets loaded when you have an integration with a website like AAA.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, getting back to your example of a small mom and pop merchant, if they were trying and working to build a community, they would need to figure out what is the type of value they want to create for that community. How do they want to sustain that value? So say that you are selling backpacking shoes, you might provide an augmentation on search pointing out where you have shoes in stock or in inventory. You might provide an augmentation on a boot review website that says, listen, you know, I have 32 reviews of that boot. Would you like to see it?
Yeah.
And you might also just point out good hiking trails in the area that you happen to be in, right? I mean, it's not just about the commercial aspect, although clearly any mom and pop shop is after the transaction ultimately, but the relationship that you're trying to build, you know, needs to have more value than just, I'm going to give you discounts on your shoes. You know, you might be pointing out good places to hike in the area you happen to be in, those kinds of things. So that you're really providing you know, like you do with Twitter or with blogs. I mean, you know, even people who are trying to make money off of their blog, they understand they have to, you know, provide more value than the ads themselves. And that's the same kind of thing we see with these kinds of experiences, that people have to build a relationship.
Could you use this, if I was the BBC's CTO and I was thinking about how to augment the BBC users' experience across the web, I could get them to load something, and then every time they see the word BBC on Twitter, could I display more information about that item?
Absolutely, yeah.
So give me some more ideas of how I could use this in some weird way.
So let's say you're the BBC, right? I mean, it's not just Twitter. You might also, let's say they go to the CNN website, but you know that they're a BBC. They like BBC, right? They've loaded this thing because they have some affiliation or affinity for BBC.
They joined Club BBC.
Yeah, that's right. They go to CNN. You could actually show them the BBB story, or at least, you know, a summary and a link that's related to the story they're looking at on CNN, or, you know, so you can try to not just leverage the relationship, but also pull content in from multiple places and put it in a single place where people can get some.
Now, the BBC CTO doesn't know anything about the CNN website, so how do they code that, and how do they tell the Kynetx component, hey, anytime you're on a web page that has these words, do something? How does it do that? How do you code this?
So it could be a number of different ways. In that specific example, there would have to be something, whether it was the BBC supplied it or somebody else supplied it, there would have to be something that says this story. And, you know, in the web world, we identify stories by URLs. So if I'm thinking, you know, if I'm going technical, I'm thinking, okay, I have some mapping between this URL and something else, but it could just be by category, because usually the category is in the URL or is easily accessible on the page. You could grab that category keyword and then use that to query a data server that the BBC has, you know, put up for this explicit purpose, that or maybe it already exists, right? Give me a category and I'll give you relevant stories, and then you just pull that in. An example we've actually built is a book library search, right? So I don't know if you're familiar with John Udell's library Lookup project. You know, where he essentially had this little JavaScript that you could look up a book on your local library if you're at Amazon. We built a similar thing for the Minutemen Library Network in the Boston area, right? So if you're a member of the Minutemen Library Network or one of the associated libraries, then you can load this card, your library card, online essentially. And now when you're at Amazon or when you're at Borders or Barnes and Nobles or even just on you know, a Wikipedia site that's talking about a book, it can tell you if that book is available in your local library.
Got it.
You know, so it's essentially using an already existing service that they had for looking up books by ISBN number, but then pulling that data and putting it on a different place on the web where the user's already at.
Got it. Interesting. Give me some other ways that you're seeing people start to use, because this is a pretty new system, right?
It is.
Your company's 2 years old.
That's right. That's right. We Phil actually, I think, registered Kynetx LLC in August of 2007. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So to answer your question, a couple of other examples. I mean, one of those that I'll also show is a service, a Kynetx application called ClearPlay.
Okay.
And ClearPlay is a company out of Utah that provides a filtering capability for movies to filter content based on where you value particular content.
Yeah.
So
essentially edits the DVD on the fly in your DVD player.
But they don't give you the movies.
Yeah.
Right? And so you have to go to ClearPlay, find out whether they have a filter for the movie you want to watch, and then you have to go to Blockbuster or go to Netflix and order the movie.
Got it.
So one of the cards that we have is, or Kynetx applications, is the ClearPlay card. And when you turn it on, it actually provides an augmentation on Netflix or IMDb telling you that that particular filter for that movie you're looking at is available.
Interesting.
So if your purpose is to look at the movie, then you install this card, and ClearPlay, of course, could distribute those with their subscriptions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you make this work on the mobile client? Because I could see a whole bunch of things, like I could build a Netflix program,
Yeah.
right? So anytime I hit a page that has the word 2012 movie on it, it would start doing stuff to my Netflix account, or it would show me more information.
Yeah, so that gets back to your original question, our elevator pitch. So our elevator pitch is that we provide a development system for building applications that respond to context in the user environment.
Yeah.
User environment, ultimately, we view as anything. It could be your sprinkler box. Right now, as Phil pointed out, we're really focusing on the web. It absolutely could be mobile. As a matter of fact, we have Kynetx rules firing on the iPhone through WebKit, of course, not through Safari.
Yeah.
And we envision that we could extend this capability into any number of user environment devices.
Yeah, so the first iPhone application that will use our system has been approved by Apple. It's not actually available in the store yet, but it's a phone book application.
Okay.
Right, that when you're looking up things in the yellow pages on your iPhone, and you go out to a particular website for a photographer, say, this could offer you a discount at that photographer, or.
And one of the interesting things about that application, Robert, is because our rules live in the cloud.
Yeah.
A developer actually creates this application on the iPhone, and they can create and develop new rules, augmenting different sites without redistributing. Thank you. The application, right?
Yeah.
So they can actually create new rules for different websites, and
Got it.
they're made available instantly.
Can you create these rules programmatically?
Yeah, you could.
Okay.
Yeah, there's an API to the rule system.
So you could have a bot watching, a Google Wave
Sure,
and creating
you could.
rules off that, or whatnot.
You could, yeah.
Really, really cool. What kinds of things does a developer need to learn to use your system? Do they already use JavaScript? But
knowing
what else
JavaScript is certainly a big help, because
Okay.
I mentioned that it's a rule system, and so you do have to learn how rules work. And programming on the client side, at least as we envision it, is a little different than traditional programming, because you're essentially programming a reactive system. Right? The user does something and you react. That's kind of how the client looks to you.
On button push or on button.
Yeah, or going to a page or clicking on something. Yeah, those things. And so you're essentially reacting to those events. And that's why we think rules are an especially good fit, because the rule says, okay, if this event happened, then I fire and I do something. I put up a notification box, I rewrite the page, I do something. So knowing JavaScript is a good help. They have to understand our rules, and they have to think a little bit differently than they probably thought because of this reactive nature.
Okay.
In my experience, we have people that have started, and it's actually surprised me how quickly they've come up to speed. But still, they always kind of get caught at least a little bit on this. Oh, okay, I'm programming a reactive system. I've got to write something that thinks about what event is the user going to do, and then how am I going to respond to it. And so, some programmers have a lot of experience at that, and some don't. But
interesting.
Yeah, and our rule language is it's a domain-specific language that Phil actually wrote, and so would you say it's, similar, I suppose, in look anyway to HTML?
Okay, so tagging.
Yeah, but one of the things.
Give me an idea of the tag that I would write to do something.
You might write, for example, here's a rule, and it has a name. Yeah. And then it has a select block which says, when is this selected? You might select on a particular URL, for example, or a URL pattern. And then the rule might simply say, get this data from this data source, manipulate it, and put up a notification box, right? So the rule would, I mean, it will be almost that simple, right? There'd be a couple of statements and then just notify with the box. And then it does, we take care in the back side of, what does it mean to put up a notification box and all of those kinds of things. So
how do I buy a service from you to implement this? Do I buy some software? And do you run it on your servers, or do I run it on my servers? Explain how that.
We run it on our servers, so it's a service. You can program the rules anywhere, although we have a web application that you use to actually enter them in the system. Once they're in the system.
So you're totally bought into cloud at this point.
We're
right?
totally bought into the cloud.
So if you're a developer whose boss says no cloud stuff in my shop yet,
it's pretty hard to use this, because we're totally in the cloud. The cloud offers a number of advantages. I mean, among them, just the idea that once you've written this application and you update the rules, everybody who's using your application sees the changes immediately. Yeah. I mean, that's not new to us, right? That's typical of a cloud environment. But
that's why we love it.
but that kind of advantage is huge when you're talking about a client-side application, because what you want to do is get somebody to download something, but you want to reduce that friction as much as possible. Yeah. So make the download simple, make it small, make it easy, and don't ever ask them to do it again. Yeah. And the cloud allows you to do all of that, right? Because you essentially get them to download that one thing, and then you load the functionality through the cloud, and that's a huge win.
Interesting. What else do developers need to know about this? How much does it cost?
Yeah. It's getting started is free. Sign up for a developer account. We give away the first 2,000 rule set evaluations a day, just to get people started and get them building stuff.
So you pay on per 1,000 rule set?
Per 1,000 rule set evaluations. It's kind of like web.
So you got to be careful if you're going to evaluate every Twitter message coming through.
Yeah, you got to think through your business model, right, and what that is. But the other side of it is, I used to worry about this, but then I did the math on the other side, and if you look at even heavy internet users, it's a little different if they use Gmail, for example, and have mail online versus whether they don't. But even heavy internet users are in the hundreds of web pages a day, not the thousands of web pages a day.
Right, but I'm looking at thousands of tweets, and each one of those could kick off a new rule lookup, couldn't it?
It could if you design the application that way. Although typically what you do is you do it on a per page basis, and then have some timer or something.
I'm thinking of I call it a super tweet, where there's a new display surface underneath each tweet that would display stuff about that tweet, and I could imagine using a rule-based language like yours to
well not look you inside. What do you have, like 10,000 following 10,000 people or something?
16,000.
16,000. Yeah.
But I want to display live onto this new display surface stuff, right? If you're talking about a movie, put Fandango in there, or put IMDb database stuff in
and
there.
that sort of thing is certainly possible.
Or build my own movie, my own movie club, right?
Yeah, our CPM model for the rule pricing also is a tiered structure, so you get economies of scale as you, and it ranges anywhere from about 24 cents to $1, depending on which tier you're in.
But the thing is, if somebody wanted to build that application and was worried about how much it would cost, we want to work with them, right? We totally want to make cool things like that happen, and we're more worried about making cool things happen than we are about the cost, especially over the next little while. So, to us, that's kind of a second order consideration. We're more interested in having something cool happen.
Yeah.
And
cool.
For a lot of people, even people with 100 followers, that might be totally doable. Kind of depends on the business model.
Yeah.
And if you're giving it away, then there's always going to be some sort of mismatch between giving stuff away and having a cloud service.
Yeah,
because clouds aren't free. You guys know that.
No, but if I was building a movie club, I could see augmenting tweets, stuff that's going through my real-time system.
Sure.
With some sort of you saw a video about 2012. Let's put that on your Netflix account or whatnot.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. Any last things that we need? How are you guys funded? And tell me a little bit about the business. How you guys are.
We raised a seed round.
But you got to say where we started.
Oh, okay. That's a good point.
You're in Salt Lake City.
We are in Salt Lake City. Yeah. Phil and I actually owned a plane together that we sold, and it provided funding for about a year,
maybe
more so, maybe more than that.
Plus, of course, we didn't take any money, so we provided our own funding by
And then we raised a seed round earlier this summer and recently closed a strategic investment with Axiom in October.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So
you're on the rocket ship and see how this works out.
We are.
Yeah.
Very
As
cool.
a matter of fact, we just held our developers conference the week before last.
And how many people showed up to that?
About 150
people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a good crowd.
Well, that's where Jesse got all hot and bothered about
right.
it. So.
Yeah, and we're planning on doing it again in April, and we hope you'll come.
Okay. Thanks for coming out to my house and showing me the system.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for the
pretty
invite.
exciting. So thank you.
Thanks, Robert.
Thanks, Robert.